is good all the time. And all the time.
God is good.
Amen. I'm pretty sure that every town that we've lived in as adults, I believe that Tammy and I have taken all the kids. The first thing we do when we move, one of the first things we do, is take them to the library and get a library card. And I'd like to say that every town I've ever lived in, I've had a library card, but when I was in kindergarten, we lived in Phoenix for a year, and I don't remember my folks taking me to the library there. But every other town, I'm convinced, wherever I've lived, I've made it a priority to go and get a library card. You know, it may not connect with a lot of people because I read a study that said after high school, the average American doesn't read any more books. Betty, how many books do you think you read a year?
Oh, my baby,
10 for Christmas. So you read at least one a month, would you say?
Yes.
Okay, I get it. A lot of people don't read a lot. But you know how easy it is to take a public library for granted? We just think it's going to be there, always going to be there. But you know that wasn't always the case. You're familiar with the Carnegie family. If you listen to NPR, it's pronounced Carnegie. I don't know why they do it like that. But the Carnegie family. This is Andrew Carnegie, and this is actually a stained glass window with Andrew Carnegie in it. He was nicknamed the patron saint of libraries. My first preaching job out of college was in Jacksonville, Illinois. And in Jacksonville, they actually have a Carnegie Library. It's a beautiful structure. And we utilize that library greatly. In his lifetime, check this out, Carnegie paid for, some overseas, some over here in America, over 3,000 libraries. I want you to think about that for a moment. That's, 3 libraries would be a lot. 30. 3,000 libraries. Carnegie, they immigrate over here, and he starts working in the factories when he's like 13, 14 years old. Back then, they worked 6, 7 days a week. Saturdays, there was a colonel, what was his name? Can't remember his name, hold on a second. Colonel James Anderson lived in town, and he had his own personal library. He only had 400 books. But the colonel would open up his personal library on Saturdays for the boys. That's what he called the working young teenagers that were working in factories, so that they could come and improve their minds and improve their status and position in life. That was how the colonel gave back. And that obviously influences Carnegie, who probably is one of the first philanthropists the way we would look at it in modern day ideas. But that influences him when he establishes his fortune and he decides, I'm going to give back to the world, I'm going to make the world a better place. I want to help people that will help themselves, improve themselves, self-improvement, being better than you were the day before. That's a good thing. Reading, I guess I'm biased, I think that's the key. All of his wealth, all of his influence, that was one of the ways that he chose to channel it. Mike, do you like the Animals? Have you ever been warned through any of their songs where what not to do? Don't do what I did when I was a young man. You ever hear the House of the Rising Sun?
Yeah.
Anybody hear the song House of the Rising Sun? It's a warning. Don't do like I did. I went down there and bad mojo happens through that song. Solomon, almost like a rendition of the House of the Rising Sun, like a warning, like a preparation. He comes to us. He's like, I have unlimited power as the king. I have unlimited affluence because I'm the wealthiest man ever. And I have an unrivaled intellect. Remember, He's the wisest. He's the smartest. And all of this led me to zero advantage over everyone else. I turned to consider wisdom and madness and folly. Right? I'm wise. Let's see how this applies. Madness, doing things that are crazy, folly, comedy club, whatever. For what can the man do who comes after the king? I've already set such a high bar, a high standard. Everybody else, you can't follow this, right? Only what has already been done. Then I saw that there is more gain in wisdom than folly. Then there is more gain in light than darkness. Verse 14. The wise person has his eyes in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Kind of like Jesus saying, he who has eyes to see, he who has ears to hear, let him listen, right? The fool walks in darkness, yet I perceive that the same event happens to them all. What's the advantage? I'm unlimited, I'm unrivaled, and what? The same thing happens. Then I said in my heart, what happens to the fool will also happen to me. Will happen to me also. Why then have I been so wise? And I said in my heart, this is also vanity. For of the wise as of the fool there is no enduring remembrance. Seeing that the days come to all will have been long forgotten. How the wise dies just like the fool. So I hated life. That's a strong word. We didn't let our boys use the word hate when we were raising our son. No, you don't say I hate you. No, that's a yeah, I see you, Amber, shaking your head. No, we don't let that in the house, right? No, that's a strong word. That's almost like a swear word, right? Carries so much emotion. He wasn't just disappointed. He wasn't just let down. He actually hated the idea. Right? If only I'd never been born. This world is terrible. I can't stand this. I hated life because what is done under the sun was grievous to me. For all is vanity. Again, that word havel, right? Pointless, meaningless, vapor, not lasting at all. And a striving after the wind. What is the warning that Solomon is bringing to the table here? Right? I'm the king over everyone. I'm the king of the castle. I'm the man. Like flexing on us, but he's bringing this warning. There's an elusive nature to validation. The pat on the shoulder, the acknowledgement, the recognition. But look at verse 16. The wise, as the fool, no enduring remembrance. That seemed to be important to Solomon. There seems to be an emptiness, a void that's left deep within him as he thinks about all that I'm doing is going to soon, quickly be forgotten. Carnegie later on in life, after he built his 3,000 plus libraries and done a lot of things, wrote a small book called The Gospel of Wealth. Seems like a contradiction or at least a contrast in terms that come to our mind. And in this book, Carnegie talks about why he built the libraries. Want to help people that want to help themselves. But he talks about the same type of thread here that Solomon is reading. What's going to be remembered? What's going to happen? What's the point of all of this? And Carnegie says something very interesting. Now, this is in the days before the IRS. I say we won't get back to those days again, but this was a time before the Internal Revenue Service. And Carnegie says, trying to put an income tax in place, it's not very efficient. He said you'd have to have a whole staff of well-trained government officials that could do this. I'm like, hey, come to our day and age, right? So this is going to be a shocker, but he proposes like a 90% death tax. That seems pretty high. When you die, the government's going to get 90% of all of your wealth. He says, I think that would incentivize people who have wealth to do like I did, like build the libraries, try to help people out. He says, don't give money to a beggar, you'll only ruin them and make it worse. But find things that will help people to help themselves, and you better the world around you. And then he says, what sense is it to compliment or commend a man who leaves all of his wealth to good things after he dies? He said, you can't take it with him where he goes. And then he says, a man who dies thus rich dies disgraced. Do something good in your lifetime is what he's saying. That's where the value is of your hard work. Doing something good for others in your lifetime. Not for approval. Solomon's not seeking approval. Solomon's not seeking accolades. He's not seeking acknowledgement. Although he is grieved that nothing will be remembered long after he is gone. Why do all of his accomplishments feel so shallow for Solomon? Why is it that all that he has done, because of what lies ahead? I'm going to die just like the fool. My life isn't going to be extended. I'm not going to become immune to what lies ahead. We're all terminal. We're passing through this world quickly. That's one of the treasures that's within Ecclesiastes, is that reminder you are not going to be here for forever of tomorrows. One day, it's going to be the last day. We don't know when that is. Solomon says, hey, listen, all that I have, all that I've accomplished, did it make my life easier like we would assume? Look at verse 17. I hated life, right, because of what's done. It was grievous to me. Look at verse 23. For all of his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night, his heart does not rest. This is also vanity. Solomon, you were worth $2 trillion. You're the smartest guy in the world. You have full power. You're the king. He's like, so what? We're passing quickly. It's not going to bring you what you think it's going to bring you. There's no success in do your 8, you hit the gate, right? You're 8 hours and then you're out for the day, right? There's no 9 to 5 schedule for someone like a Solomon. I've said this many times, and we're talking about all the energy that you pour into your projects, all the energy you pour into your work, all the places that you're finding purpose and meaning and significance. If you've not, of course, if you're retired, this isn't going to apply, Mike. I'm sure you've had long days as a disciplinarian. Nancy, working in the medical office, you've had long days. Rodney, you're looking forward to that retirement one day, right? I've heard you say it 1,000 times.
2 weeks.
2 weeks? What? We finally have a countdown date. Wow. Well, congratulations ahead of time. If you've not ever worked an 18-hour day and wish that it hadn't ended, you're in the wrong field. You know, Craig, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Or, that's the worst sermon I've ever heard. Literally, if you've never worked an 18-hour day and you just wished it wasn't coming to an end, your heart's not in it. And you're like, can you really try to peddle that off on me? Next thing you're going to say is, if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Right? I believe that is true. I literally believe that's true. If you're doing what your heart is passionate about and what you're talented in and what you're gifted in, it doesn't feel like the 4-letter word, work. Because our heart is in it. I think there's a lot of truth in that idea. And Solomon, his voice is raw. His voice is vulnerable. He is being honest. There's no fluff. But yet he still comes across disappointed. He comes across almost depressed. I hated all my toil, in which I toil under the sun, seeing I must leave it to the man who will come after me. Verse 19, And who knows whether he will be wise or a fool? Yet he will be master of all of which I toiled and used my wisdom under the sun. This is also vanity. So I turned, verse 20, about and gave my heart up to despair over the toil of all my labors under the sun. Because sometimes a person who has toiled with wisdom and knowledge and skill must leave everything to be enjoyed by someone who did not toil for it. This is vanity and a great evil. Verse 22. What has a man from all the toil and striving of his heart, which he toils beneath the sun? For again, right, his days are full of sorrow, and his work is a vexation. Even in the night, his heart does not rest. This is vanity. He's despair. He's disappointed. Why? Maybe he learned something that could be valuable for us. Perhaps he had misdirected, mischanneled, misunderstood the real purpose of ambition. Why does he plant all the gardens, build all the vineyards, build all the palaces? Why does he make all of these efforts? He does so, and it's almost like he reaches the limit of endurance, right? I'm wore out, I'm vexed, I'm frustrated. He has all the endless possibilities, all the accomplishments, and then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off for him. All of a sudden it becomes clear. Right? I'm going to leave it all behind, so I can't take it with me. That makes me mad, because I don't know how they're going to manage what I've built. Before that, I'm going to disappear off this earth and no one's going to remember me. Oh, okay. So it's not about being remembered. It's not about, listen, those who follow him, what they choose to do, but all of a sudden, the light bulb goes off, and it seems like Solomon is saying it's in the moment. In the moment. It's like it becomes clear. The enjoyment of the moment, that becomes the gift. That becomes the reward. There's nothing better, he says in verse 24, nothing better for a person than that he should eat and drink and find enjoyment in his toil. This I saw is from the hand of God. All that I was trying to do, all my ambition, everything was misdirected. The light bulb goes on. It's the enjoyment of the task. The journey is the destination. The struggle is the reward, right? For to the one who pleases him, God has given wisdom and knowledge and joy. But to the sinner, he has given the business of gathering and collecting, only to give it to one who pleases God. This is also vanity and a striving after the wind. Solomon saying, you know what? Self-restraint would have been better. I gave myself over to wisdom, folly, madness, denied my heart, right? In the last couple chapters, denied my heart, nothing. No pleasure was off the table. I did what I wanted to do, and now I'm seeing that self-restraint brings more satisfaction than overindulgence. Self-discipline would be better than the unbridled, uninhibited, unrestrained. So maybe as we read through the book of Ecclesiastes and we think about all that Solomon has been exposing us to through his experiences, maybe it's time that we as a Christian culture re-examine our definition of what true success is. Maybe as we read through it, it would be beneficial to ask ourselves the question, what if we've been wrong? What if we've missed the point? What if we've had the wrong standard for measuring success? What if, like I just said, the journey is the destination? What if that's where the satisfaction is? What if the effort, the exertion, what if that's the reward? The pouring your heart into your passions, the toil, the work, the effort, what if that's the target? And what if the fact that any compensation that comes with it is just a byproduct? What if there is truth to that idea? If I do what I love, it's not work, right? What if there is a sense satisfaction by channeling our gifts and our energy and our talents into building our character. What if, right? What if the experience of the struggle, what if that was what was priceless in our minds, in our hearts? What if what we do is more valuable than what could be collected, right? The sinner gets the business of gathering and collecting. But the person who's blessed by God eats, drinks, and finds enjoyment in the effort, in the toil, in the struggle. What if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if we've totally missed the point about the struggle? Right? Carnegie realized he couldn't take it all with him. Solomon realizes he can't take it all with him. There's got to be more to the story. There's got to be something in the satisfaction. So it will be left behind. We are passing through. Our time on this earth is temporary. It's hard to believe. Kellen's carrying little baby Willow around back there. She can't even talk yet. She don't have a mouthful of teeth. It's hard to believe one day she's going to grow up, maybe get married, maybe have kids. I don't know. But one day, be her last day. It's hard to fathom that, right? One day is going to be my last day. What am I going to do that's really going to make it worthwhile? What am I going to do that's really going to bring satisfaction? Well, Solomon says, maybe it's the experience, not the accumulation. Maybe he's teaching us this is where enjoyment really exists in light of how quickly we are passing through this world. Let's stand and